So welcome to our Paws Between Us, your regular dose of positive pet news. Every other week, we bring you a short, uplifting episode packed with the latest feel-good stories from the world of pets.
So take a moment to tune out from the negative news dominating our headlines and help us shine a light on the good, celebrating the joy pets bring to our lives and sharing the inspiring changes making their lives better too.
So settle in for a short pause and let's spread some positivity together.
Yes, let's.
We need it, don't we?
We do.
I feel like we do.
I feel a bit flat today. I think
Do
I'm
you?
tired. I don't know if I'm tired or don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe it's the
end of
weather.
Week. It's been hot all week, which is just tiring when you're enduring it all week. Busy week, I guess, for both of us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, hopefully the uplifting news that we're going to share is going to perk us up.
Yes, because I've been avoiding the main news. So let's talk about good news. Although I don't know if my news is that good.
No, well, I mean, I think my news on my socials, all my updates and news and posts that I receive are all related to pets. So the algorithm is doing its job. But I just feel like there's so much out there to read about and learn about. That can feel overwhelming in itself. But it's all good because it's I think the pet community is a really positive one. And there's lots of really nice stories that I keep reading about. So,
you're right. Like, there is a lot of news out there. And I kind of was reflecting today when I was sort of bibbing about my day and thinking like, I wanted to sort of remind people why we're here. And I suppose we're learning too, because we're not the experts necessarily. We're learning with experts and learning from what's coming out in the news and what's on research. And there is a lot. It's kind of trying to keep up with all of that. So there is a lot out there. But you're right. The pet community is such a lovely one. Like people again on my socials are generally really supportive and will big each other up and want to know more and learn more. So at least that's a positive thing.
Yeah, it's great. I think we're all learning together, aren't we? And when we share that passion for pets, I think it does unite people and bring people together in a really good way. So,
Thank goodness, because that's what they need.
Indeed. So what have you got? What have you been reading about this week?
Mine's cat related. This week I thought I would play into my main interests, I suppose, with Maureen Weaver. So, the first one is about the UK government's new animal welfare strategy that I think it's been out a little while now, but the Cats Protection have been campaigning about it a little bit because they don't think it goes far enough.
Okay.
Yeah, so I thought I'd share that because I think they want people to be aware of their position and just see how people feel about it and maybe support if they can. So they've just put that the strategy abandons cats basically and leaves them behind in areas like breeding controls and wider welfare protections. And they think that the message really is that cats need to get the same attention as dogs and other companion animals, and they'll feel like the strategy is a bit of an afterthought for cats. DEFRA says that it aims to improve welfare across companion animals, wild animals, livestock and farm animals, and specifically mentions better welfare practices in cat breeding sector. It also includes reforms around puppy farming, companion animal imports, shock collars, which I can't even believe still exist. We talked about this with Rachel when we had Nose to Trail, didn't we? Microchipping and veterinary regulation, but the criticism from Cats Protection is that they think the cat breeding reform is too vague, especially when you compare it to what's there for dogs. And they argue that without the clearer rules, there can just be continued unhealthy, underage and genetically compromised cats being bred and sold, which then obviously causes long-term welfare problems. And it also goes alongside a wider policy movement on cats' welfare in Europe, where EU legislation has been moving forward with stronger traceability and stronger welfare rules. So it feels like we're being left behind, and the Cats Protection says that we need to sort of catch up a little bit and do more. So I think they're trying to encourage people to, I think there's a campaign, petition to contact your local MP. So if people want to find out more about that, then take a look on the Cats Protection website. There'll be lots of information on there. It's a bit of a shame that, if it is that vague and they need to do way more, then I'm not sure why that obviously isn't included. DEFRA obviously think they're doing enough, and Cats Protection haven't had the opportunity to get a stronger stronger guidance in there. But there's so much around like unregulated breeding. I was learning about this yesterday and today, and obviously we talked before about unneutered cats, and there's lots more kittens around. And I was learning that breeding is an unregulated industry and should be so, because anyone could be a breeder and anyone could do it in any way, in any form. And when we got Weaver and Murray, we had concerns around where we were getting her from. But once you're in the home, you want to almost rescue them from the situation. It wasn't bad, but she was breeding dogs. I did see the mother, but then when I went to pick up Murray and Weaver, the mother had gone and they were the only two kittens left. The house was kind of strange and the situation was strange. I mean, I turned up and the man was in his pants. It was all a bit odd, and they were moving house very quickly. And the whole thing, although I did get full documentation for Murray and Weaver, not that that mattered to me, but it matters that it's a breeder and registered and they should have documentation.
Yes.
But it just felt a bit weird. So, you know, knowing if there was a regulation around that, people would have reassurances that their welfare, their health was all taken care of, and the mothers weren't being overbred or bred in kind of wrong circumstances, I suppose. So, yeah, interesting.
Yeah. I just wonder, when you were talking then, I just wondered, you sort of touched on it, as why haven't cats had the same sort of focus as the dogs have? And is that just an oversight, or is that intentional? Like you say, that the government feels that
they've gone far enough.
Have gone far enough, that there's adequate protections there.
Can be down to interpretation, can't it?
But I mean, I must admit, on my socials, mainly on my local Facebook feeds, see more ads for kittens, but often a scenario where it's like, oh, my cat isn't neutered and has got pregnant and I've now got all these kittens and I don't know what to do with them. And I think it applies to sort of your average house cat. I don't know, what is the name of a breed if it's like an average?
I think like moggies. They're
your
like
moggies, the ones that kind of go outside and roam and probably meet friends while they're out, and kittens happen. So I see that a lot, and
me too.
Who knows what sort of conditions that the cat and the kittens are being raised in. So I see that more definitely than the dogs.
I suppose like cats do just go out and roam and have more opportunities to mate, don't they, if you haven't had them neutered? You're supposed to have them neutered really young, like at 4 months, I think. And if people are letting them out before that, then there's a likelihood they'll come into contact and get pregnant really quickly.
So yes. And where did you find out about your breeder then? Was that online, or was that
I did.
through...
Do you know, I can't.
With the vet?
I did. It was online. I can't entirely remember, but I did look for a registered breeder, and I found one. But her kittens weren't ready. There was some crossover of timings for when we were ready, and so she recommended a friend, and she said she's also a registered breeder. So I don't know if I looked into her, whether I just took her for her word and just followed along. And that's how I came across this second lady, who seemed lovely and was really, cats all look healthy. The cats were good. She had a big enclosure and a climber thing for the cats. So that it was just the franticness and the weirdness around her moving very quickly and breeding dogs as well. And there were lots of cats about it. And then the payment situation was kind of strange, and it was all just, there was just something, when something's not right.
Yeah, sounds like there's lots of red flags there.
And then at that point, I'm invested, and I'm like, no, if anything, I want to rescue these two cats from this situation and give them a gorgeous home. I was saying to somebody this morning, it's like, it's not like you're buying a shirt and you realise, the owner is, I don't know, isn't being helpful, or you find out like there's something about the company or the business. Once you're there and you've seen the cat, you're like, well, I'm taking them now. So if any registration, I mean, you can find reputable breeders through like usually the breeds registration, can't you? So that's one way, I suppose, of doing it. But
I think it'd be really good to get a breeder on our podcast at some point, a cat or a dog breeder, a registered breeder.
That's a good idea.
Someone who can just talk us through the that, the ethical practices that they follow, the things that people should be looking out for, some of the red flags to avoid.
It's a good idea.
Because I did read, don't quote me on this, because I may have got this sort of figure wrong, but I did read that in the UK for dogs, only 30% of puppies come from registered breeders.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then they're like, so where are the rest coming from? Like, what's actually happening? But yeah, so if there are puppies coming from unregistered breeders, that sort of just makes you wonder about what's going on, what their early lives are like.
They're still trying to
who's
find that
breeding
puppy
them and why. Yeah, the puppy farm
the puppy
thing.
farm thing, aren't they? Oh, it makes me so sad.
So,
yeah, I don't know. Let's see what happens. I mean, if there's going to be a challenge to it, maybe they can move the dial next time, or even if I don't know if it's in consultation. It doesn't sound like it is actually. It worries me that, I don't know, kind of if the EU are going ahead, this is one of the other worries about politically in the UK, if we move away more from the EU and they're doing better things than us. I think
it's one way we're missing out, isn't it, of not being part of the EU. So, yeah, we expect better of the UK, don't we? We need to, if there's a petition, we should sign it.
Yes,
In terms of raising welfare standards even more than what's proposed.
Well, what have you found in the news that's worth sharing?
So an interesting article called "Should You Be Able to Take Your Dog Everywhere?" Paraphrase. But it explores the growing tension in the UK around dogs being welcomed into more and more public spaces, restaurants, offices, shops, even potentially flights. I think we've spoken about that before. I think there was a petition, wasn't there, to take dogs on a plane in the UK, and asks whether we've reached a tipping point. And what sparked the debate initially was a viral incident online. So there was a woman who was dining with her newborn baby when another diner arrived with a pram, not carrying a baby, but a sausage dog. And so the owner placed a puppy training pad on the restaurant floor, which the lady with the baby found very unhygienic and upsetting. And when they complained, the dog owner compared her dog to the baby, which escalated the situation. And then led the lady with the baby to post a TikTok video that went viral with over 20 million views. And there was real mixed opinions, I think, about, our boundaries being crossed, are the hygiene challenges, is it disrespectful for non-dog people with allergies, people who aren't comfortable around dogs, people with phobias? And the article's reflecting on the fact that dogs really are everywhere. So we've got around 13 million dogs, which is up from 9 million pre-pandemic. And they are in sort of all the spaces that I go in, because I do search out dog-friendly spaces. And like I say, there's this current petition out at the moment, which we have talked about before, which is, even allowing them in aircraft cabins on flights to the UK. So with this rise in dogs in the UK, there's obviously more dog mess left in public spaces. There's environmental concerns, which we talked about before on this podcast, kind of flea treatment chemicals washing into ponds and harming wildlife. And then there was a little bit about in the article, which I was quite interested in, around do dogs actually enjoy being taken everywhere? So
yes,
do they have fun? Do they like getting out and about with their owners? And experts in the article had sort of said yes, mostly yes, as long as they're not overstimulated and getting enough rest. And this plays into the thing we've talked about before around dogs needing around 14 hours of sleep a day. So they're on the move all the time, or they're in busy environments. Do they get the chance to sleep? And, that is interesting for me, because I do sometimes worry that Betty, because she comes everywhere with me, is it really fair? Is she really enjoying it? Is she comfortable? Is she happy? But then interestingly today, I popped outside just to do something. My husband was in another room, and Betty hadn't realised that he was in another room, and she just started howling really loudly because I'd left her for a moment. Yeah, there's probably an unhealthy attachment there, but ultimately I feel the need to take Betty with me, because if I left her at home, she would be howling and she'd just be so uncomfortable. I get the impression she's okay when we go out. She enjoys sniffing new places. She enjoys meeting people, and so long as she can lay down and chill and sleep. She sometimes gets treats. She gets to meet other dogs. She gets to meet other people. But ultimately, she's with me, next to me, and wants to be with me. At least that's the signals she gives me, because when she's not with me, she's howling at the door.
Lots to unpick there.
Yeah, lots to unpick. And, I appreciate that some people are scared of dogs, appreciate that some people just don't like being around them, especially if they've got young children that are fearful of dogs. There is the hygiene thing to bear in mind, because now Betty's older, we've talked about sort of incontinence. We've got to just watch that. Don't want Betty doing a poo in the middle of a restaurant. I would be horrified. I wouldn't want that. What was interesting about the article that I read, it also shared the historical perspective. And it said dogs being everywhere isn't actually new, that medieval monasteries once banned them because they were overrunning the place. And Shakespeare often portrayed them as nuisances. I mean, very different context in that they didn't probably have dog rescues, dog neutering. There's probably lots of dogs without homes that were having babies, and sort of dog populations were growing in cities. And attitudes to dogs probably weren't the same as they are now. But apparently, dogs have often been everywhere in the UK. And I think we've spoken about this before, that in some UK postcodes, there are now more dogs than children. And with fewer children around, society may simply be more tolerant of dogs. I don't know. But are we reaching a breaking point? Was the sort of other part of the story was, there's a rise in dog attacks, to 2,500 dog attacks apparently in 2024.
But like things like that, like rising dog attacks. I know that there's also the whole thing about the pandemic made some dogs more have attachment issues and not be as socialized. So those two things could be sort of exclusive. I don't know, but interesting, because I mean, like, I don't have a problem with dogs being anywhere, so long as, a bit like a baby. If a baby's crying and screaming, then I don't want it near me. If it's kind of being quite quiet and is able to kind of be in a social space, and I know that's hard, and I appreciate, parents can't keep a child quiet sometimes, but as a diner or somebody in a public space, a crying, screaming child is awful. Same with the dogs. If a dog's barking constantly, no, I don't want the dog there. But if the dog's well behaved and can sit quietly in any space, I'm happy for it. And I think that's probably what it comes down to. If your dog's well behaved, is trained and won't lunge at people, won't bark, won't be a nuisance, then I don't think that's a problem. But it seems a bit common sense to me, because I would not expect someone to take a puppy pad and it potentially weeing in a restaurant. In my opinion, that does feel unhygienic and a bit silly. Like, wait until the dog's, trained and can go where it needs to go. Because this actually comes into an interview we'll be doing in a few weeks with guide dogs as well, because I know guide dogs owners have problems going into restaurants and public spaces with guide dogs, and that's absolutely a no-no. You have to legally allow a guide dog in, because it's that individual's support and independence, and it provides people with being able to kind of live their life like everybody else. So
a lifeline. It's a lifeline for that person.
Yeah. So you can't stop a guide dog going in. But I do understand people kind of who are fearful of dogs, may not like dogs, may not want them in the space. So it's not an easy answer, is it really? But it would be probably nicer if you as a dog owner didn't have to worry about where you can and can't go with your dog. But then you did mention the attachment problem. And I think when we talked to Rachel a few weeks ago, she suggested that you two have got a very strong attachment, because she goes everywhere with you, and maybe some dogs need to learn to be on their own. They're not humans, are they? So we can't treat them quite the same. And again, we mentioned this last time, so maybe a topic we can explore. But
I think that's the thing in living in a busy city, having a busy life, is that Betty does come with us to places, and often dogs are encouraged. So, some of the places that we go to on a weekend, for example, there's lots of things for dogs to enjoy too. So there's more and more of that. So there's like events and get-togethers and things where dogs are sort of part of the experience. I totally agree that you shouldn't really be encouraging your dog to pee and poo in the middle of a restaurant or a busy environment. So yeah, I think it wasn't clear from the article, was the puppy pad there just as a precaution, or is it because the dog isn't toilet trained?
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that's really important to sort out before you start taking your dog anywhere, that if they need to go to the loo, they know how to do it outside. So it's a tricky one. I think it was, for me, I just took comfort in the fact that it did say that most dogs, so long as they get enough sleep, it isn't a bad thing. It is a positive thing for them.
Cool.
And I don't go anywhere now without my little bag of stuff for Betty. So I always take the poo bags, take the treats, take the water, take a little blanket for her to sit on. So I'm always thinking of these things as well before we go out.
Nice, because I think, interestingly, because I'd quite like, I sometimes miss my cats, and it'd be lovely if I could go out with them for the day. Like, I'd take the dog and take them for a walk. It would just be adorable. Like, if just sometimes they could come and experience the world with me. And maybe, and I've seen people are doing this, they're harness training their cats and taking them into cities and on transport. And maybe there might be a rise in cats coming into public places as well. So I can see why you want Betty with you and why people like going out with their dogs. It's nice, isn't it? It's like a social thing. It can bring people together.
Yeah,
gives you both enjoyment.
And I get people sometimes need a break as well, but I didn't bring Betty into my life just to leave her at home all day while I was doing stuff. I mean, working's different, but yeah, if I'm going to have Betty in my life and then just have a, every weekend where I'm like, go out for 8 hours and she's just here at home, it's not really fair.
Not fair either, yeah.
But I also get, there are times when just it's probably easier, and the dog is perhaps a bit happier just to be at home. So like in hot weather, I've left Betty, but one of us is always at home. I'm like, actually, can't take Betty on the tube today, can't take Betty out with me because it's just far too hot.
Yeah.
So there are limits. But yeah, it was just interesting to see that there's kind of a bit of a debate going on around this issue at the moment. So I'd be interested to see what listeners think as well.
Yeah, tell us what you think if you're in the comments or whatever. Interesting. Should I do my final? Have you got...
what you said you had a third one. That's my main bit of news for this week that I've been reading about. Mine was just
a bit more about toxins, because you talked about toxins for dogs. So I found an article about toxins for cats, and some of them again I wasn't aware of, and I think this comes back to, again, we said something before about how cats can get on different surfaces and easily get into cupboards and things and eat stuff like dogs will. So there was things about talking about gummies that are infused with cannabis. They're particularly dangerous for cats, and these sort of THC stuff that people have nowadays seems to be more common. So that can cause like neurological tremors and disorientation. So be careful if you've got anything like that. HRT gels.
No.
Now, you think, obviously, the cat's not going to lick the gel, but if you've put it on your skin and there's some remaining when they lick or clean you, because often cats can own your hands, maybe just be careful on that. There's things like, people know a lot about this, but like rat poisons and rodent poisons, so be careful with those. But diffusers and scented candles, air fresheners, essential oils can be bad for cats. So it's the essential oils part of it, really. So even inhaled exposure can cause drooling, respiratory irritation and liver damage. So I do have a couple of those around, which I need to be careful about. The obvious things like vapes and nicotine patches. Again, if there's any liquid leaking or anything like that, be really careful. So yeah, there was just a few kind of new things that I hadn't come across before, and just thought it'd be useful to share just very quickly, just to be aware that, like, even if it's stuff that's not laid out, but that you've maybe rubbed onto your skin or that you're using and they lick it off, because that can happen quite a lot with cats. So yeah,
and that's the thing, new things are introduced all the time, aren't they, which you might not expect to be toxic, but gummies with cannabis in there, that's a fairly new thing. You didn't probably have them years ago. And like HRT gels as well, those kind of things. As new things come to market for humans, I guess you've always got to think, what's the what's the animal impact, what's the risk here. And
Yeah.
our neighbours have just got a new kitten and they've got rid of most of their plants.
Oh,
I think they're a little bit gutted. They've had them for years and some of them have grown really big and they've really looked after them, and I've often watered them for them when they were away. But yeah, they've realised that they're toxic to cats, so they've had to get rid. But
yeah, there's a few like lilies and things particularly are bad, but yeah, you got to be careful with that.
Yeah. So
don't buy me any lilies in
my
bouquets when you send me them.
Or CBD gummies or anything like that.
Yeah, so that was really just a quick one.
Great. Okay. Well, I think that's a good roundup for this week. Hope our listeners have enjoyed hearing about some of the things that have caught our attention. And we're always open to hearing your news, things that have interested you that you'd like us to talk about and to raise awareness of. So please send them in. And yeah, thank you. Thank you for listening this week. And we look forward to seeing you again soon.
Yeah, cheers. See you soon, Sash.
See you soon, Nat.
Bye.
Bye.